Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to answer 20 questions. Welcome back and thanks for joining me. I get a lot of questions on my YouTube channel and I answer every single question, but that doesn't mean that all of my visitors go through and watch all those videos and read all of those comments, questions, and answers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compile 20 of my most popular questions into this video, plus a few related questions, and then I'm going to share that with you. This video is going to be kind of long, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to index all of the questions in the comment section below. So check that out. And what I'll do, if I do this right, each question will have a timestamp with a link that you can click on and go listen to just that question. That way you don't have to sit through this entire video. It's probably going to be 20 or 30 minutes long. You can just look at the piece that pertains to you. So I hope that's helpful for you. So one of my most popular questions is, how much did you pay for, and then fill in the blank. As a general rule, I do not share what I pay for services, especially sometimes goods. There have been some exceptions, like with my Helix video, I shared what I paid for it because it was just remarkable. Volkswagen was closing out an outgoing part, getting ready for Helix's latest model of amplifier, and it was just remarkable that I got that thing for $235 shipped to my door. So that was a wow factor that I was sharing with my viewers. But other than that, I don't think I've really shared pricing. And I won't share pricing on services because it's not fair to the service provider nor to the person who asked the question. If I say, yeah, I had my clutch installed for this back in 2017, well, it's not fair when somebody 3 years later goes to a shop and expecting the same thing. Labor rates change. Things change. And so to keep my channel timeless, I just keep money stuff out of it. And so that's my answer there. I will still answer your question, but I'll answer it with, sorry, I don't answer. Can you do it on my car? And when I say do it, I mean whatever work it is that I've done, be it my stereo, a ham radio installation. I can't think of some of the other things. Oh, the rear seat delete. People wanted me to do the job on their car. And generally speaking, I don't work on other people's cars. There was a time when I would do some turbo swaps and things like that. And I really don't like working on cars anymore, even my own cars. Why do I work on my car if I dislike it? Well, I also dislike paying people to do work on my car that I can do better. The electronics work being a good example, or non-standard things, well, like the rear seat delete. That took a lot of exploration and experimenting, and I did not want to be displeased with somebody's work and then pay them for it. I'd rather just figure that out on my own. Some other things like a water pump replacement, I ask somebody, hey, how much do you charge for this? And if they say, oh, this amount, done. That's worth my time right there, just so I don't have to worry about collecting and disposing of fluids and rounding up parts and blah, blah. There are some things that I will gladly pay a shop to do, and then there are things that I will pay for myself. But to answer the question, no, I don't work on people's cars. Can you make a do-it-yourself video for, and then fill in the blank? That particular question was steered at my rear seat delete, and overall, it still pertains to everything. I don't typically make do-it-yourself videos. I have made one for the blower motor replacement. I did it for two reasons. One is because it was a very easy job. It wasn't too terrible to record, and I just hadn't seen anything on YouTube. Nobody else had seemed to have done it, and so I did it to get something out there. But for the most part, if I'm fixing something, I am in a moment to where I just want it fixed and done, especially if it's hot or uncomfortable outside. I'm in this zone, and doing these do-it-yourself videos, they're time consuming. I got to hand it to people who do make do-it-yourself videos. Shopdapp.com, their videos are great. And there's a lot of camera work and prep and slowdowns, and it's all very time consuming. And I've got a regular day job, and so I just don't have time for this kind of stuff. Like I said, quick and easy, I'm all over it. But if it's something that's pretty involved, no. My videos, instead of here's how to do it, they are more like here's what I did. And so I'm showing you what I did instead of how to do it, if that makes sense. So there will be exceptions. There will be things that I'll do for you and show you. But like I said, it's when it's easy and fast. Speed is everything in my world, given that I work full time. I've got other hobbies, and I'm not a full-time YouTuber. So I'm doing this purely in my spare time. Did you call it OBD 11? It's an OBD 2, you buffoon. Nobody's called me a buffoon, but that's basically what they're saying when they do the LOL afterwards. Yes, I know the difference between an OBD 2 port and an OBD 11 tool. OBD 11 is a diagnostic tool. It's a dongle and an app for your smartphone that allow you to do diagnostics, convenience modifications and clearing codes and things like that. It is similar to VCDS in that it does some of the things that VCDS does, which reminds me, it's a follow-on question: what plug-in diagnostic tool do you use? I have both. I was one of Uwe's beta testers back in 2000 for the Rostec VCDS diagnostic tool, and I like it, I really do. But man, these Mark 7s, they just have so many menu items now, and of course they're all in German, and the font is just so tiny. My old eyes are having a hard time reading some of that stuff. So I will use it when I need to, but man, I'm in bifocals, or I take off my glasses and I get really close to the screen so I can read and then translate. OBD 11 is good, really good for the common stuff, and it's faster, and I can read everything right on my smartphone. Sure, it might still be in German, but the font is larger and I can deal with it. I still have VCDS, and I will use it for those really uncommon things that are just more difficult, if not impossible, to do with OBD 11. But OBD 11 is my primary tool, particularly because my smartphone goes with me everywhere I go, as does the OBD 11 dongle. So there's your answer to that question. 38 miles to the gallon? How do you achieve such magic? Last time I checked, I get 26 to 28. Exactly how do you do this? I've had this question asked a lot of times. The 38 miles to the gallon, that is not my regular fuel economy. Generally speaking, I get between 28 and 30. It really depends. I speed quite a bit lately on my morning commutes. It's a terrible habit, but it's, yeah, I drive way too fast. But it's mostly freeway driving, and so I still get at worst maybe 26, but usually 28, between 28 and 30. The 38 miles to gallon, that was like purely a highway trip. And then in some cases, I'm actually doing some testing. Like whenever I did my my rooftop box and trailer load testing, I was checking economy on those trips. So I've got a closed, well, it's not really a closed circuit. I've got a circuit that I drive. It's about 200 miles and no traffic. And I do that just to check freeway economy or highway economy. And so, yes, if I drive sedately and in a very boring manner, no jackassery on the road, yeah, I can get 38 miles to the gallon. In fact, I just mounted some new tires and I wanted to test them, and I got 39 miles to the gallon during that test. I'll tell you more about the tires in another video. So yes, it can be done with some self-control, discipline, and boredom. 30,000 miles on your original clutch. Oh gosh, I've had so many comments about this. So let's see if I can get the answer right here where everybody can see it. Stock clutch, 80 to 100 additional horsepower depending on who you ask, 100 foot-pounds extra torque, and trailer towing. That's all very abusive on the clutch. And perhaps the most important part of all is my clutch did not fail at 30,000 miles. It merely slipped one cold morning when I made an unwise decision to accelerate in 5th gear with my trailer in tow. So the clutch hadn't failed. I just replaced it preemptively because I was about to go on a road trip. So I probably could have milked it for another 30,000 miles for all I know. It just slipped one time on a cold morning. So the clutch, I don't know. The one that I have now, which that's a follow-on question, what clutch do you use now? I have the RSR clutch kit by HS Tuning. And if I recall that correctly, it is an upgrade. It's intended to be an upgrade for the Audi TT RS. It holds 480 pound-feet of torque. It retains a dual mass flywheel. I went ahead and replaced my flywheel anyway, just as a precaution. And they claim that it has a factory feel. It doesn't. It's stiffer. I stalled the car in the first inch when I went to drive it because I was expecting that factory feel, which there's almost no pressure to the factory clutch. This one feels more like a, I don't know, more like a performance clutch. It is very easy to get used to. It feels normal to me now. Clutch noise, there's no noise. My car still sounds like a sewing machine at idle. There's no rattling or what do they call it, chatter from the clutch, none of that stuff. It's all very quiet. And so that's what I do appreciate about it. It's a factory-like, I was about to say factory-like feel, factory-like operation and noise and function. So yeah, I like it. So that's my clutch. Are you sure Germany designed the GTI to hook to a trailer? It's bothering me a lot because I use my GTI for handling corners, up to speed, and pleasure driving only. It's the GTI's purpose. And I agree with a lot of that. But even with me agreeing with that, 90% of my driving, over 90% of my driving is commuting. And in my commute, yes, I speed, so that is, I guess, up to speed. But I don't carve in and out of traffic. I don't take excessively high-speed exit ramps or anything like that. Although there is one traffic circle I like to blast through, just for fun. But no, I'm not carving, desolate mountain roads or anything like that. I mean, I've been on the tail of the dragon and a few other fun roads, but I mean, come on, how often do you really drive stuff like that? So, if I were to guess, I would say that 95% of my driving is commute or open highway driving. 5% probably is with the trailer. And so I've got nearly 100,000 miles on my car, and I think that maybe 5,000 of it is with a trailer in tow. And then that last little bit, I'll say 0.5%, is the fun stuff, right? Yes, the GTI can carve corners and things like that, but I didn't get it for that. I got it for the power potential. And of course, it's equipped very nicely, so that's what I got it for. But more on, so there's a related question. Do you feel the need to run an auxiliary transmission cooler or any sort of helper springs in the rear when towing 1,000 pounds? And the answer to that is no. Even with a 1,000-pound trailer in tow, there's only 150 pounds on the hitch, so that's like putting 150 pounds of cargo in the trunk. And this car's carrying capacity, as stated in the door, is 960 pounds. I think. I might have just messed that up. In the door, I think it's got a higher value stamped. I'll share that with you. I'll put it up here or something. And then what I did is I removed approximately 100 pounds from that to account for my equipment rack in the back and my trailer hitch. And so I stick with a guideline of 960 pounds of payload. Well, if I have 1,000 pounds in a trailer behind me, 900 of that is in the trailer on its own tires and axle and springs. And so only 100 of that is here in the car. And so if I'm driving in here by myself like I am right now, and this is how I usually do it. The car is empty and I have a trailer behind me. The car is not, the chassis itself is not working any harder. The engine, I I could even go so far as to say the engine's not working that hard, because this car's gross vehicle weight rating is the weight of the car plus 1,000 pounds. And so I don't think I'm taxing the engine that hard. Now, the rating for towing, the U.S. doesn't do that. Come on, lawyers. Lawyers don't want to, they want to see everybody driving big pickup trucks or something. It's an automotive industry and / lawyers thing. But over in Europe, these cars are rated for towing. In the UK, for example, they say that these cars can tow 1,500 pounds without brakes on the trailer and up to 3,500 pounds with trailer brakes. I would never do that, but 1,500 pounds, no sweat. 1,500 pounds is probably about where my comfort zone is, so I don't think I would go any higher than that. Although I could, but I don't feel the need to. So I don't know. That's enough about the trailers. This car is doing fine with a trailer, especially when you drive it safely. Don't go blasting down the highway at 80 miles an hour with a trailer in tow, or take high-speed exit ramps at high speeds. Just, you got to be smart, that's all. Just a question. Why do you need ham radio in your car? I don't. I have been a ham radio operator since the mid-90s. And so I was a ham radio operator before I was a Volkswagen owner. Well, that's not true. Before I was a Volkswagen enthusiast. And I was using ham radios before cell phones were commonplace. I mean, sure, they existed in the mid-90s, but they weren't commonplace. Not everybody had one. So ham radios have been a tool for me for a very long time. And it would seem that cell phones and modern communications technology have made ham radios obsolete, but not really. They still serve their function in emergencies, especially. I mean, the big blackout in the northeast region of the United States just wasn't that long ago, and ham radio operators provided all sorts of emergency communications throughout all of that, especially, I would say, mobile ham operators. I mean, here I am, I'm producing my own power supply. My ham equipment is in the car, my antennas are mobile, I can do whatever I want. And yeah, and so there's an emergency communications aspect of ham radio that I bring to the table with this. So yes, there's that. And then, of course, there's entertainment. It works very well in remote areas. I mean, believe it or not, cell phones don't work everywhere. And so ham radio gets through when nobody else does. What antenna and radio are you running? Related questions. Rather than answer that, I'm going to refer you to my ham radio video. I'll put it up here in the corner and let you go check that out. I've got a variety of antennas, and I have a digital UHF VHF radio that I have in the car right now, but I've wired in provisions to where if I wanted to, I could bring my HF radio and talk around the world on that, mount a bigger antenna on the roof. It would look ridiculous, but come on, we're talking about some pretty cool skywave propagation and things like that, but go check that video out if you want to see that. You put 93,000 miles on your vehicle in 3 years. Where on earth are you driving? Do you spend any time outside of your car during that time? Yeah, like I said, I commute. My one-way commute to work is 35 miles. So I'm putting 70 miles a day on the car. And then I take this car on road trips, and all of our entertainment is on this car. And so, yeah, I drive it. From what I've read in the comments of my videos, it sounds like, I don't want to say this of all Europeans, but Europe is maybe more congested than some of the areas in the United States. Maybe public transportation is better. In fact, I'm sure it is. More people ride bicycles in some countries. And so they can leave their car sitting while they use other forms of transportation. I don't really have that option. And so I drive the car. And I didn't buy this car to sit in a garage and be pretty, or to try to preserve some fictional value that's in my head of the car. I bought it to drive it, and so I'm going to drive it until it's worthless. And as for somebody claiming that I was just going to rag the hell out of it and then dump it on some poor immigrant, like, why did he bring the immigrant part into it? I don't get that. But no, I keep my cars until they're worthless. And if I do decide to get rid of this car before it's worthless, some dealer will probably take a trade on it and then wholesale it to somebody, and then that guy is going to sell it to some poor guy. Hopefully whoever buys his car will have done their research and know what they're getting into when they see it. I'm not hiding anything. So anyway, that's too long of a story to explain why I have 93,000 miles on my car in only 3 years. Have you done the carbon cleaning yet? And the answer to that is no. My mechanic, he's a VW specialist, and he's very reasonable in my opinion, and he won't even bother looking for carbon until a car is exhibiting, say, like a cold start misfire or a check engine light. And I mean, to me, that's reasonable. He is managing a workforce and has a lot of cars coming in and out, and he needs to prioritize his work, best bang for the buck. And if the car's not having problems, then what? I mean, so what? So it's got some carbon buildup on it, but there's nothing wrong with the car. Why would he charge whatever the labor rate is to clean these valves when they might not really need it yet? So I'm all over that. My car is not showing any signs of problems. I just last weekend got 39 miles to the gallon, so clearly it's breathing just fine. So yeah, I'm not going to worry about the carbon until it's a problem, and right now it's not a problem. How reliable has the engine been? I've heard horror stories about the Mark 7 engines. Again, no problems. I mean, people were all over my little oil leak, but that was self-inflicted. And people have been all over my coolant problem, but is it really a problem? I'm not sure. I had my car inspected, my engine inspected for coolant leaks, and nobody could find anything. So either it's a very well hidden and tiny leak, or it's just doing something normal. I don't know. But the engine has never left me stranded. The car's never left me stranded. It gets me to work every day, and every time I push the start button, it starts, with the exception of the 2 times my battery was dead. And one of those times was self-inflicted. The other time the battery had just had enough. That's just all there was to it. So yes, I found it very reliable. Have you replaced the brakes? No, I haven't. Like I have said or indicated earlier in this video, my car is mostly a highway-driven car. I don't do any real sporty driving with it. And if I do, it's usually in the type of driving where I don't use the brakes that much. And so when I had the car inspected in November, which at this point has been 3 months, so 3 months ago, I had 6 30-seconds at one end of the car and 7 or 8 30-seconds at the other end. I can't remember which ones wear faster. I know on my old Passat, the rear brakes wore faster. I think in this car they're wearing faster in front. But still, I think I'm going to make it easily until next November before I need to replace the pads. And then, of course, I'll do the rotors as well. I always do all that as one big job. What roof rack system and box is that? Is there any interference with the hatch opening? And does the rack screw in or bolt on? I use a Rhino rack. And the reason I use the Rhino rack is the factory crossbars, they ride kind of high above the car, and I've read that they're noisy. Lots of people have said that they're noisy, and they're silver. That's a petty thing, but given the color of my car, that silver doesn't match the silver of the car, and then this car has black accents on it, and so I wanted a black rack. I also like the I'm going to call it Euro styling, because I don't remember what the proper term is for it, but the rack, you've got the crossbar here like this, or not the crossbar, but the foot pad is here, and then it just curves straight into the crossbar instead of the crossbar sitting on top like this and hanging over. I didn't want that. I've seen it called European styling. I like that, and so I wanted European styling. I wanted black, and I wanted a low profile rack. Since I do not have a sunroof, I have plenty of room for low profile racks. And Rhino Rack, I don't want to say they were the only ones that were delivering that, but they were the ones that appealed to me the most. I think Rolla or somebody like that makes one as well, but I didn't like them. So yes, I went with Rhino Rack, and like most other racks on the market, they clamp into the door jamb, and yeah, they're fine. I use Yakima Showcase 15 for my cargo box. I like the box. It leaked, which I disliked. Rather than send it back to Yakima all the way over across the country in Washington at great expense. I mean, they've got a great lifetime warranty, but you have to pay to get the product to them to fix it. And that's freight charges. No thanks. It's almost cheaper to just buy another box. So I wrapped mine. And then when I had my box wrapped, I just intentionally didn't put any of the markings back on the box because I don't want to advertise for the company with a leaky box. But of course, I just told you who makes it, so I guess I'm advertising. But anyway, yeah, the box is fine other than the leaks. And now that I have everything wrapped, no leaks whatsoever. I can go through torrential downpours and no water gets inside. I also have a Yakima Mega Load Warrior. Is that what it's called? I'll post that up here. I can't remember what the name of it is. I got it with the extension because I bought it for my trailer. And I've used it on the car so they didn't have to disassemble it and take that extension out. And it's a monster on top of the car. And a smaller basket would probably be quieter because the wind would blow up over the windshield and then maybe clear the basket. This thing, because it's so huge, it spans the entire length of the roof. And so the wind that comes up the windshield then blows through the rack, or excuse me, blows through the basket when it's empty. And it makes a pretty terrible howling sound. So I'm probably going to design some sort of, not really a fairing, but just something to direct the air around the rack, just for noise control. It won't really help with aerodynamics. But yeah, that's my box system. Oh, and does it interfere with the opening of the hatchback? No, it doesn't. Even though I position my rack further back, because I'm trying to reduce my overhang up front, I bias the box backward, and even with it back there, it does not interfere. And yeah, so the fit is great. If I had a Showcase 20 or like a big giant 21-foot cubic box, I might have a different problem. But the 15 cubic box will not interfere with the hatchback at all. Which downpipe do you have? I've got APR's downpipe. I'm just going to keep it simple at that. It's APR. I went with APR because I've been watching them a long time. And sure, I suppose they're a cookie cutter tune with cookie cutter parts, but they work. Is it the fastest? Is it the best? I don't know. That's all subjective in my opinion, but it works. I've never had any problems with any of this, especially now that I have the final tune. I had a little tiny problem with pre-ignition with my original tune, but then once I updated my software, all of that went away. I've never had a single problem with pre-ignition. Last question, and this is kind of all related. Did your ECU upgrade affect the factory warranty? Was your clutch replaced under warranty? Did your tune void your warranty? Warranty. I'm going to say no, but that's not because Volkswagen is so gracious with all of my tuning. The answer is no, because once I tuned my car, I considered myself to be on my own warranty. Now, obviously, if I had an electrical problem or something like that, I would have gone to Volkswagen and said, hey, this is a problem, it needs to be fixed. But I think Volkswagen or any other company is well within their right to void a portion of a warranty. For example, you can't expect Volkswagen to honor a warranty on an engine that you've increased its output by a substantial margin. It's expected that there's going to be wear and tear items and maybe a failure item. And even if you don't expect that to be true, do expect it to play out in court. Because if they say no, your only recourse is to take them to court. And that court battle could be expensive, especially if they are in the right. And I know some people are very fast to bring up the whole Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act of 1975. And in my opinion, that doesn't necessarily apply in this situation. Magnuson-Moss, the intention there was to keep dealers from running aftermarket suppliers out of business. That means I can use a Fram air filter in my car instead of a Volkswagen part, or I can put a Duralast battery in instead of a genuine Volkswagen battery. I believe that's the root intent behind Magnuson-Moss. Magnuson-Moss doesn't mean, yes, I can turn this car into a 400 horsepower monster and Volkswagen has to fix it if anything breaks. That's not what that means. So the truthful answer to that is no, Volkswagen would not cover. They didn't void my warranty, but that's because they didn't know that I modded the car. I was out of my warranty in 18 months based on my rate of driving. Maybe it was 2 years, but yeah, the warranty is long gone. But even if I'd gone to them for the clutch, which would have been foolish. I mean, come on, I added 100 foot-pounds of torque to the output of the engine, and I tow. There's no way they would have honored that warranty. And the clutch is a wear and tear item anyway. So yeah, there was no voided warranty and no warranty claim on the clutch. And now I'm far, far out of the warranty. It's not even a thing. If something breaks, I just fix it. And if I can't afford to fix it, then I guess at that point I get rid of the car. But then it's still sometimes I'm not going to get much for the car unless I fix the problem. So and then if I fix the problem, I might as well keep the car. I'm just going to keep the car until it becomes a financial nightmare to keep it. An ongoing thing, one problem after another that just frustrates the heck out of me. And so far that hasn't even been close to being the case. So yeah, so there you have it. That's 20 questions plus a few bonus questions. Let me know if there was something that I didn't answer quite well enough. There are other questions that have been asked of me. Some of those I'm going to answer with a dedicated video. They're not popular questions. These are all the questions that have been the most popular that I've been asked. In some cases over and over and over again. And yeah, so that's it. Feel free to ask new questions below if there's something you'd like me to address that I perhaps haven't even covered, maybe I haven't thought of. Be glad to answer. Until then, I'll see you next time, and thanks for being here. Take care.